Hey guys, Ray from Love Your RV and Boats. In this video, I'm going to give you a look at a new product that's about to hit the RV off-grid market. It's an awning with embedded solar panels. So you roll it out and you can get up to about 1,000 watts of power coming out through the awning. There's a company called Ecodynamic that contacted me and asked if I would attend the Quartzsite RV show that's currently on. Right now it's January 21st. The show runs from the 20th to I think the 27th. So I headed down to Quartzsite and took a look at the product on their display in their booth at Quartzsite. And in this video, I'm going to have some footage of the actual product in real life. And then I'm going to come back and give you some kind of in-depth information. I was able to talk to the fellows that were manning the booth there and get my questions answered because I had a few concerns about the awning and things like, what kind of power it puts out, that sort of thing. So let's go to the footage and I'll come back and give you some more information and my thoughts on it. So here we are at their booth at the Quartzsite RV show. It was quite loud in there, very busy, lots of people in there, so I had to kind of mute down the sound a bit. But they had a big screen showing their kind of corporate video on it. Let's go over here and give you a look at the awning. Now, right away, I noticed it wasn't exactly what was shown in the website. The website seemed to have a 4-panel affair with even color on top, but this one was a 3-panel and it wasn't 1,000 watts. I think it was 800 watts. But the fellow was telling me this is their kind of first offering they're going to have, and then they're going to have different lengths and models as it goes. It was kind of a sort of a rubbery panel, very thin. I think they go around 15 pounds maybe per segment. So it has a fair amount of heft to it, more than your standard awning. So I noticed right away the supports were pretty beefy. They were made of aluminum, pretty thick aluminum. All the hardware looked pretty well done, and I guess the hardware has to be to support all the weight. Each end had a MC4 connector coming out of it, one on each side. Kind of a closer look at the arms here. And then underneath they had 2 lights for lighting. They tell me that you can turn that on or off. I told them it'd be good if they could, have that change in brightness and maybe have different colors. Here's where it would go onto your RV. So they just have it against a cardboard display. Didn't actually have an RV there, and they didn't have it outside, so I couldn't really test solar power as well. Here's the other arm, and that's where the wires, just down below is where the wiring comes out. So you have the solar wiring come out, and there was a couple other wires to run the lights and the actual motor. It's a motorized awning, so it retracts with a remote control. Yeah, that's the other side with the other MC4 connector. So you can see the hardware looks pretty skookum, well built. Here's a look at the top side, the 3 panels they have up there. So this one was 12 feet. The brackets were 12 feet wide, and I think the solar panels were around 8 feet or so. And here's sort of a display of one of the panels. I think they're working on different products. They were mentioning that they might sell these separate for ground panels, or so you could deploy them in different ways, but you can see how tightly they roll. Unlike the SIGS panels that I had reviewed in the summer, they were rollable, but these are much tighter and they're more kind of a rubbery material. And I haven't changed the speed of this. This is the actual speed of how it retracts. So they say around 60 seconds. It's a pretty slow retraction, but I think that has to kind of do with the weight too. And they have to use a pretty high torque little motor with gear ratios. So, but it does run off 12 volt. There we go. Now we should have it going back out here. I did notice when it was deployed, there was a bit of a low point in the awning. I kind of asked, does water pool in there? And the guy said, yeah, it sort of will a little bit pool, but you can kind of push up on it and get rid of the water. I also kind of asked about dust and dirt, like when it's rolling like that, whether it was going to scuff or scratch. And they said that would be something maybe their team could look into. There it is, a little close-up view of the material for you. You can see it's made of very small segments. Each of those little squares in there, they said, is actually a solar cell. So if it does get hit by something like hail or something like that, it could take out one of them, but it won't affect the overall power output of the panel. Another closer look at the panel. So what he's got there kind of weighed about 20 pounds, including the rollers on each end when I lifted it up. I was thinking though, when I saw this, one of the reasons I wanted to go check it out in my mind right away, it was like something for our boat, our trawler boat, because there's not a lot of places to put solar panels on the boat. And I'm thinking I could attach this to the side of the boat. When we hit anchor, I could just deploy it, and all of a sudden I'd have, 800 or 1,000 watts of a solar panel. And I could have it up high enough that it wouldn't be shaded by anything. So I'm looking forward to see some of the things they come up with this technology. So far, they don't really have much for sale. They're talking about it being available maybe in February, and other models as far as June. They're trying to get the word out. So they're attending the shows. I think this is their first show in North America. They've done a show at one of the big RV, they call it caravan show in China, where it was introduced, and now they're starting their North America shows. So they started with Quartzsite. Of course, everybody comes here. A lot of boondockers come here. They're interested in solar. Kind of ideal for a smaller rig. And that's one thing I mentioned too. I said, there's the remote. I mentioned that our rigs are a lot bigger than a lot of the worldwide, like in China or Europe. The rigs are much smaller. They're kind of blown away by how big our RVs are. And even my awning is actually 20 feet. Well, first question probably is, what's the pricing for this apparatus? So this is from their website, Art Piece for RV 1000 watt. Like I say, this isn't the one I saw in the show, but it's showing 3,999 pre-sale offer, 20% off, 3,199, which probably is sort of comparable. Awnings can be very expensive. I know when you go to replace an awning, they're well over $1,000, and then you've also got the paneling, but it's not a cheap offering, that's for sure. And I'm not sure what their other models would be in comparison, like the 8-foot model or the one I saw at the show. They're still kind of launching this thing, so they don't have a huge amount of information, but they tell me they're going to be updating their website shortly, so maybe stay tuned to that if you want to see more options and pricing. But they're showing fully refundable deposit, fast free delivery. Where is that? I think that's only in the US. I talked about Canada, and they're not selling in Canada right now, although maybe in the future that could happen. And they're showing 10 years warranty on photovoltaic components and 3 years on all other parts from date of installation. Online support.
Okay, so I've jotted down some info I thought people would want to be aware of. So like I say, the size I saw was 12 feet. They tell me there's an 8-foot version, and they're working on a 16-foot version. And I told them that, RVs in North America, especially fifth wheels, Class A's, a lot of the awnings are quite large. Mine's 20 or 21 feet. They told me that they may be working on a bigger one. Their problem is with weight. If you put too many of those panels, and it's more and more weight on those arms. They thought maybe they might be able to stitch vinyl in between the segments to lengthen it, so it's kind of an ongoing project with them. But I told them, just go out in Quartzsite and look around the desert. You'll see how big the RVs are here. Another thing is the panels, because they have extra weight, everything's a little bit beefier. I noticed the angle of the arms. You know, my power awning, when it folds out, the arms fold straight out, and it's up quite high, so I can walk under. I'm 6 feet tall, and I can walk under and clear that no problem. I can tell by theirs, those arms are going to hang down. And that can be a problem if you're not aware. You're going to be walking into those. And even if you learn not to do it, you could have guests over and they could just, you know, turn around and wham, you're into the awning. So I told them about that as one of the things they might look into. Also, the panel voltage spec on their website was a open circuit voltage of 138 volts, and I think a working voltage of like 120 or 130, which is fine. It's good power transfer, but not everybody might have solar controllers, existing solar controllers for that high of a voltage. So you may have to not be able to use your existing controller, or may have to, you know, it doesn't come with a solar charge controller, so you have to buy that as well. It does have vibration sensors, because I talked about wind. You know, out here in the desert, you can have a perfectly calm day. A lot of people lose their awnings, or they forget their awnings, and a big gust comes, dust devil, and just boom, it can just take your awning and flip it right over the top of the RV. So they say it does have a vibration sensor, so if it senses vibration, it will automatically retract, which is a nice feature. It uses just the remote control to deploy it, put it out, put it back in. Unlike our awnings and RV, we usually have a manual switch somewhere, and then I also have a remote control, but they just have the single remote control. Although they do have a crank, a manual crank, in case the remote doesn't work or whatever. But I told them it'd be a good idea if they could actually sell it, give you two remotes when they sell you it, because, you know, everybody can misplace a remote. Someone walks off a remote, you're like, where did I put the remote? You drop the remote, break the remote, batteries don't work, and then your awning's stuck out, so you have to try to find a crank, that sort of thing. And then I was a little concerned about dust. I don't know how it's going to react. You know, out here in the desert, dust just gets over everything. You can be perfectly parked, people are driving by, dust clouds. Where we would summer in BC, even the park was very dusty. And then you get a little bit of rain and that dust is stuck on the surface. So I was concerned about that winding in and out with dust on it, whether it would, you know, create a haze on the panel. So at first they started saying, well, you can wipe it off, but you can't really get up there and wipe it off. And you don't have access always to water when you're out boondocking. So another concern I had. But overall, I found it well built. I didn't get to test any power because it's inside the booth there in Quartzsite, so I kind of would like to see a power test as well. So any further questions, just leave them in the comments. I'll try to get a hold of the company and answer them for you. But overall, it kind of looks like a really cool thing. And like I say, it'd be very interesting for my boat. I wonder if maybe I could get them to send me out at least maybe a panel segment or something this summer that I could test in my boat, or maybe attach in my boat. I did see in one of their brochures they had the sort of the same thing without the awning struts. They just had it come straight out from a house, and it was, I think, a 500 watt panel that deployed kind of straight out. So maybe that would work on the boat, but that sort of interests me. Anyway, till next time, Ray from Love You RV and Boat. Cheers, guys.